Alrighty.
Playing hard, playing tough, just playing good. It's not good enough. We're gonna show you what league's all about. If there's a lesson to be learned, we're handing it out. This game is our game. This town is our town. Turn the heat up and listen to the crowd.
Good evening and welcome to the Joust. My name is Nagy. I'm here as always with my co-host Liam McNeil. But Joust, we have a special guest for you tonight. This man was referred to by Robert Dillon, sports journalist Robert Dillon, as the most underrated Knights player to ever pull on the jersey. He amounted 100 first grade games for the Knights, 101 in a lot of various positions. It's the man that we call waltzing, Matt Hilder. Welcome to the Joust.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Now, first question. The name Waltzing. Did you ever get that on the field, or is that a fan creation?
No, that was a Ray Hadley creation.
Oh, beautiful.
Ray Hadley, the man
I'm
we
pretty
all
sure.
love.
I remember someone come to me and saying, "Oh, the best nickname in the game." And I'm going, "What are you talking?" Because my nickname was Trouble. Everyone used to call me Trouble just for.
What is that?
Well, yeah, I won't go into that, but yeah. And then they started calling me Waltzing, and they said Ray Hadley had been saying it on when he was calling the games on the radio or whatever.
I'm amazed that anyone listened to Ray Hadley long enough to get that out of him.
Yeah, no,
Not a fan.
Well, he's back. He's back in it.
He is.
Shouldn't
Yeah.
be. He is, but he shouldn't be. We have some thoughts on this show about Ray Hadley.
I've come full circle with Ray Hadley. I used to like listening to him. Well, when he was on the continuous call team, I really liked the continuous call team, and then, but as a commentator, not so much.
No.
But, you know.
Or a bloke as a human being. Not quite so much, but
So, Matt, you finished up with the Knights a few years ago, 2014, was it? You finished up, and
I think so. Yeah.
what's it been like life after footy?
It's been good, busy. Just going back into the workforce, plumbing,
Plumbing,
doing
yep.
that, into that. So we started our own business, and that's going good.
Fantastic.
At the moment, yeah.
Chose to settle here at in Newcastle after.
Yeah, we always were going. We travelled. When we first come here, we sort of said, we'll go back to Sydney eventually. But as we sort of stayed longer, we grew to love the place, and the kids were growing up and loved it. So we just thought we'd stay. And
how could you not? It's the greatest place on earth.
Yeah, you're dead right. Go back to Sydney, and you're just going, no.
I don't get why
me
people
back
live
up
there.
there. Yeah. No.
What's it like having weekends? Do you enjoy that? Because I imagine being a footy player, you never get a weekend off. What's it like?
Yeah, well, it's been a few years since I've had pulled the boots on, so it's sort of that novelty's worn off a bit. But it's it was good at first up. It was like we can plan trips and holidays and go away and all those good things, and the family was grateful for that as well. And yeah, we did have a few good holidays after the season, footy finished. But I sort of dabbled a bit, playing a bit of park footy back in Sydney and that, so it was never really a clean cut transition.
So it's a nice easing out process.
Yeah,
I
you
guess.
sort of blended out a little bit. Oh, you mentioned Sydney, so you're from Cronulla, that's correct. And then you found yourself in 2001 making your debut with the Cronulla Sharks. What was it like hitting first grade?
Oh, it was good. It was good. I grew up probably within a kilometre from Shark Park all my life. So junior years was always walk down to the footy, watch the Sharks play. Paul Green, Andrew Eddinghausen, all them players. It was great. It was a great childhood, and it was something I really valued was playing first grade for Cronulla. And when I come to the Knights, it was a similar thing. Seeing Kurt and Denny and all that, how they had the passion for the jersey, was a similar feeling I had with the Sharks back then.
Glad you brought up those old players, because I thought Nathan Long, Cronulla prop, long blonde hair. He was a Martin Lane clone with blonde hair. He was one of the most underrated props. Were you a fan of Nathan Long's? I don't know why that name just popped into my head.
I don't know who that is.
Think about late 90s Cronulla teams.
Martin Lang and Nathan Long.
Yeah, it was those two in the front row. They were
just charging,
brilliant.
That was great.
He was like, an albino Martin Lang. It was amazing. But you got to debut under Chris Anderson, you mentioned earlier, one of the greatest coaches ever. You must have learned a lot from him, I imagine, coming through.
Yeah, definitely. He was more of a coach who the players respected, I think, more than showing them skillful side of the game or anything like that. And I think that's half the battle, to get the players playing for you as a coach, and that's something he did really well. And we had Brett Kamali there as well, and he was sort of the mastermind of all the sort of footy side of things, and Chris is the one that fired everyone up and got him going. So it worked for him at Melbourne, and sort of worked at Cronulla for a bit, and then it just faded out.
Well, as I think we're learning a lot over the last week in the NRL, that seems to happen with coaching. It's,
Yeah.
it's
It's
a bit of a cutthroat industry.
It's got a bit of a fade. So you're obviously idolising playing for Cronulla. Now you get your shot with Cronulla outside of playing with Breckin Morley as well as greats of the game like Jason Stevens and David Peachy. What was it like stepping into that realm?
Yeah, it was good. Them blokes, they're great. I used to watch Dave Peachy and Jay Stevens playing when I was a young fella, and then get to play with them, and they were very welcoming as senior players for the young people, which was great. And we had a great team there. Like it was a very sort of older team. Brett Morley had Jason Stevens,
Danny Nutley,
Chris Beattie, Danny Nutley,
Chris Beattie, yeah.
yeah, all them players, and it was good time to come through the grades and crack into first grade because he had such good support. With Phil Bailey was there as well, and he was at the time he was probably young, but he had an old head on him, and he was really good.
We spoke about Phil Bailey last week, actually, funnily enough, just saying that he's sort of a bit of a forgotten Origin player, playing 3 games in 2003, I think, for the Blues.
And throwing a few punches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Webke.
Yeah.
Webke, yeah.
Was he known around the club as a bit of a fighter, Phil
No.
Bailey, or was that a
No.
bit out of character?
No, far from it. I think we nearly had a few stouses on the drink together. That's as far as it got with him. No, he was good. He I don't know what happened that night. I think he just fired up, come off the bench and yeah.
And rip
Origin
right
will
in.
do
Got
that
into
to
it.
you.
Yeah, it was
Origin
good.
will absolutely do that to you. Even just
Yeah.
watching it does that to me.
Yeah.
So after about 5 seasons with the Sharks, I think in 2007, so about 6 seasons, signed by the Titans in their first year. Was that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, how was that coming to firstly not only moving away from Cronulla where you played all your professional footy up until that point, but to a new club that that hadn't been established before? What was that like as a player?
Yeah, it was pretty much sort of what I was looking for. I think I've had a year in reserve grade with a bit of first grade, and look, it was sort of Cronulla. They offered me to hang around and play, but I could tell they weren't really interested. It was just sort of one of them charity sort of. yeah, you can have. We'll give you this. Or, yeah, righto. So I thought, oh, what the hell? I got offered. Johnny Cartwright rang me up and asked if I was keen to come up and play a bit of 5'8". With a bit of, because I was playing a bit of 5'8" in reserve grade, and we were doing all right. And I don't know, maybe he seen me there, and he said he just needed someone to sort of lend a hand to Scotty Prince and Preston up there, just to play sort of a backward role, run the ball a bit, and mainly just tackle and defend well. And
Just that running half in the middle, sort of move the ball around. Yeah.
don't have to control anything. Just
Because, that's a pretty damaging half and fullback combination they had up there with Scotty and Preston. It must have been incredible.
Yeah.
Getting to run around with them.
well, that's I think they spent all their money on them too. So they didn't have much left for the 5'8".
There was was it Luke Bailey as well in the inaugural year?
Yeah,
Or am
Bull
I-
Bailey was up there.
Yeah, Bull Bailey, Luke Swain was up there.
Luke Swain?
Yeah, Hodjo, you know Hodjo, he lives in the area. Michael Hodgson's.
No, I don't think we do.
I
Yeah.
do. That's a name from the past. I love all these past names that are coming up. This is brilliant.
Especially so many of them find themselves in Newcastle, which
That's
is
an
fantastic.
interesting thing. I've discussed with a few people I know that a lot of the old footy players come to Newcastle. Like you got Brett Mullins, I think, lives up here. Both the Hetherington boys.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of just retired
Is there a bit of a call around that happens? Like you
Yeah.
got to check this place out. It's great. You can stick around. It-
pubs everywhere. You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, it must be. I don't know.
Yeah, it must be. I don't
Yeah.
know. There's just something in the water up here that the old footy players love it. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Lead. No, I think no,
Yeah, the smelter at Bullaroo.
it's in the soil. It's great. So you find yourself coming to the Knights in 2008. So that's after the 1 year with the Titans. Was that always going to be a 1 year sort of a thing, or did you get sort of poached from that?
No, it was initially, and then I spoke to John. He said, "Yeah, you can." He was happy to keep me on.
Yep.
Just pretty much the same sort of deal. But then Brian approached. He gave me a call, and I just the way he was talking and what he wanted me to do is more appealing than staying up there and doing playing a bit of 5'8" and off the bench type of thing. So. Because Brian wanted me to play a bit of dummy half, and which is what I sort of wanted to play, and a bit of back row. back where I was used to playing.
Also, no one wants to live on the Gold Coast. I've spoken about this with Nag. He's the only person I met who enjoyed living on the Gold Coast. Everyone's like, yeah, I went for a few weeks. It was great. But no one seems to really enjoy living there long term.
It's a hard place to settle down.
Yeah,
in,
I'm
is
sure
all
you would have.
saying.
Were you pretty happy to get out of the Gold Coast? It just seems like it's everything all at once. And
We enjoyed it. It was good.
for a young footy player, I imagine it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
we had my little girl. She's just been born. We moved up there.
I should say, speaking of your kids, we've got Sonny joining us.
Sonny
as well.
in the background.
Give us a wave.
G'day, Sonny.
G'day, Sonny.
Say hello.
We'll fix that in post. We'll get the volume up.
Yeah.
So you find yourself in Newcastle, new club again after one season, so another big change. What was your first impressions of Newcastle? Did you know much about the area before you came?
No, I didn't. I'd been just here to play footy, and that's about it. I think ever since I was a junior, we'd come up from Sydney and play. We used to play out of the dog track out there in the middle of that when Hunter Mariners were back in the game.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, the Gardens.
The
The Gardens. That's it.
Played in the middle of there.
Topper Stadium, it was called for a while. Breakers Stadium. I guess, what was it like then, having played against Newcastle a lot through your junior years and the start of your career, and then coming to the club? Like, Newcastle had this reputation. You come up, you get the crap kicked out of you. Did you find when you came to the club, you're like, this is, I guess, why is it this way? Did you find it lived up to what you saw of it as an opposing player, I guess? Sorry for the rambling there.
That's all right. No. When we used to come up here, it was crazy. We even playing under 19s or 20s, whatever it was packed out every time we'd come out here. And it was great. We used to love coming up here to play. I don't know. I think it's died down a bit. You don't get as many. Probably because they don't play 3 grades there anymore as much. But there might be something to it. But yeah, it was nearly a full house every time we'd come up. When even playing juniors and reserve grade and all those things. But the thing that impressed me most about when I first come was how much the players cared about the place what they played for, and how down to earth they were, and they were just normal blokes. Pretty much, yeah.
It was coming on after Joey Johns retiring in sort of very early in 2007. Players like Bedsy and Kurt was still there. What was it like playing with those sort of guys? It's sort of quite like prominent faces of the club.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, they just do anything to win them too. It was just it lifts everyone around them. So that was good to, especially Danny. He's such a nice bloke off the field, but then on the field, when you're playing with him, he just changes into a machine who wants to win. And it's great. And Kurt's very similar. I think Kurt gets a lot of it from them blokes, Denny and Joey and all them. It's passed down.
It was always, the Knights went through a few changes while you were there as well. You came in with Brian Smith, and then it was into Rick Stone, and then into Wayne Bennett. At the time where now we're only one coach further ahead with Nathan Brown, and then there's always talks of by the peanut gallery of the Knights supporters of maybe a different coach might be a good thing. What's it like being part of a club and playing so many different coaches, so many different styles? What's it like being in a club when you do see that change of coach? What does it do to the feel around the place?
Oh, there's been some coaches, isn't there?
Yeah. He wouldn't want to be a
it?
coach for love nor money.
Yeah.
There's no job security. But yeah, it must be tough as a player to have that, top influence changing very regularly.
Yeah, it is, because it's pretty much feels like start again.
Yeah.
Unless the coach, especially if it's a new coach coming in, if it's a coach who's been assistant or something, then gets pushed up, then a lot of the things might say the same. But if it's someone coming in like Wayne, or it's pretty much we'll just start again.
Because it kind of felt like that when Brian Smith left, and there seemed to be a bit of a relief, but Rick Stone was promoted from within, and it felt like it was continuing the same way that Brian had kind of started it. Yeah. And then I guess Wayne came in and it was just a chop, and that's it. It must have been, pretty tough to go through it.
I think it was. I think Rick took a lot of things from Brian into his way of coaching and everything like that, but he also bring a lot of stuff himself. But I think Wayne's got his own way, and he come in and was completely different and bring his. Whereas Rick kept all pretty much the same sort of staff, and then Wayne just bring everyone new. So it was like a new club.
Yeah, that'd be really tough to deal with. Now, I want to bring your attention to a particular date Round 3, 2012, you're playing the Broncos. You kicked your one and only NRL goal. How did that happen? Had you come through as a goal kicker, or did someone throw the...
That's a lie. You haven't done your research.
I haven't. No, I didn't. Did you kick a few at the Sharks?
Yeah.
I really didn't do my research.
I think I kicked for most of the year one year.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
I meant one and only Knights goal.
Knights
Sorry,
goal,
mate. My apologies. That's
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but
You found yourself kicking that. But you've always sort of found yourself in a lot of different positions, playing in the back row, lock, hooker, started sort of in 5'8", around then. So, really versatile, real workman of the game. And that sort of showed. I think we've also got, I want to draw your attention to Elliot. If you're in there, we could pop up a photo that circulated in the Herald. Now, this photo I remember was the day after a game that you played in the I can't remember who it was against, but I remember seeing, and you had claret coming everywhere, and everyone thought it might have been a little cut on the head, but this sort of showed the extent of the cut, as well as losing a tooth the same game. Was that correct?
no. Jeez, I look good, don't I?
well, you've recovered brilliantly.
Yeah.
You look excellent.
No, that was a tooth was previous week's.
Okay,
Ah.
Yeah.
It's glad that you can remember this from the head knock.
That's our scar on the top.
Yeah.
That was Josh Dugan's stud when he trampled on my head.
Oh, Dukes.
Remember that? Yeah. And the other one was, that was Joel Edwards' head.
Joel Edwards.
Joel
so
Edwards.
never to be forgiven.
Was he?
Is that why he left the club? You can't be headbutting Hilder. You don't go
Yeah.
around doing that.
His
It's rude.
widow's peak is sharp. Yeah, stabbed me.
It was, what's it like? Obviously, you hear about, I think people forget about players, as people. People like seeing the players come in, play the game, and they might, carry an injury home, might be a broken hand, and they think, and it's just a week's number for supporters. He's out for 3 weeks, but players obviously got to take those injuries home. What was it like coming home with that sort of injury? And thinking, I'm sure like your family would have been like, oh, he's just, he had a good game. Oh, hang on a second, he's got 26 staples up the back of his head.
Yeah. There wasn't. Yeah, they weren't. I don't know. They found it hard to believe that there wasn't nothing internal damage too much done. I don't know.
I don't think you missed much game either. Was that true? You came back the following week?
I missed one, and then I'd come back for the semi, and it split open again. I had a headgear on, and it just
went again.
Went again, and they had to do it again.
I remember at the time we were all amazed seeing the footage, and they said, "Well, he's back." It looked like
missed one game, and then come back for the semi-final against South, I think it was, at home, and I think we won, and then. We lost. I don't know.
Mate, after that injury, no one's.
And it split open again, and then that was it.
Yeah. There's got to be some shockers. Was that I was trying to think. Was there any? Did you ever do like any serious knee injuries? Any sort of real serious ones you had to recover from? Or
No,
you pretty
not
lucky?
really. No, I've been good. Just shoulder reconstructions and stuff like that, but no knees.
Because none of my head knocks have been that bad. I can't remember my own name most days, so it's done pretty well to bounce back from that.
So it's pretty crazy. Obviously, carrying those, coming home and having to sort of realise those sort of injuries with, you know what I mean. Like for supporters, it's always, he'll be back next week, and assuming everything's fine. But I remember just seeing that and just thinking, Jesus, like that's something you don't forget about. It would have been absolutely pouring out at when you got it dressed. Surely I
don't know. It wasn't bleeding all too much, but it was just, you had to get the ambulance and then sit up the hospital.
Yeah.
They stapled it up and then come home and bleed. Just bled for a couple of days on the sheets.
And that was a time before smartphones. So sitting in a hospital waiting room, that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
That's not a good time. Really.
I suppose you had Nokia, you had Snake.
True. Yeah, true.
These when you had a very interesting sort of end to your career, because in 2013 you played a lot of reserve grade for the Knights, actually getting the Knights reserve grade Player of the Year, but also you came back for around the semis for when we had the 2013 final run. What was it like, sort of stepping away from that first grade side and still being around the squad, but then coming back at such a sort of pinnacle time in the year?
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It was weird. It felt like I felt like I was there, but I was sort of not part of it. But I was, because I was playing. But I hadn't been there all year. I think I played one game maybe up until then.
Yeah,
and then got to play the finals. But I was only playing, a very limited time. But it was still an important sort of 20 minutes or whatever I was playing. and a lot can happen in that 20 minutes. So a lot of pressure, sort of, to not play first grade most of the year and come in at such a crucial time of the year was, I did feel a lot of pressure, but it was also an opportunity to win a premiership, because I thought we were definitely a good chance of doing it, and for whatever reason we just didn't.
That's it. I think a lot of Knights fans forget that through the Tinkler era, we were so close. There was that preliminary final, and you scored a try in your 100th Knights game, 200th NRL game. We love a milestone.
We love a milestone.
At the Joust. How'd it feel like on such a big occasion to get across the stripe against the Storm, who around that period were just unstoppable, to score a
down there
beauty
as well,
down there against them in a clutch game on the big the big numbers day? That must have been incredible.
Yeah, it was. It was a great sort of. That's why I thought everything was, from my whole career, it was, never had much success, and I was thinking, oh fuck, maybe this could really, everything's sort of falling into place here.
Yeah.
Maybe this is going to be it. We might actually win it.
Because I remember the week leading up, there wasn't a chance. Guys weren't given a chance
against the Storm. Yeah, really strong game.
Amazing.
Strong game against the Bulldogs. I remember having seeing it, and everyone thought, "Hang on, they're a real deal." I think finishing 7th, and then the Bulldogs had knocked us out of the 2 previous times in the finals, and everyone thought, "Oh, they're going to do it again." But that year, I think the Knights had beaten the Bulldogs twice. And we sort of had their number that year, and it was just to see, really strong game against the Bulldogs, and then coming against the Storm where the chances were low, but it was such a. I remember I was actually, funnily enough, I was at the Commonwealth Hotel watching that. Liam, were you there? You might have been there with me.
No, I was working at the fire station hotel. Actually, I wish I'd been at the Commonwealth. It's a wonderful pub, very very good pub.
Have you ever been at the Commonwealth Hotel, Matt?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, it's a wonderful venue.
Crowy
loves it. It's one of his favourites.
It's you see a lot of the.
I think I'm the only man who's been asked to leave more times than.
Yeah. He leaves under his own accord, but he might get a tap on the shoulder. No, it's a wonderful venue, and we see a lot of the Knights old boys down there, usually with Crowy. I think he must have he has a bar tab there or something going, but it's a really brilliant place. We might even go there tonight, Liam, for a bit of dinner.
Might
after
do that.
You're welcome to join us, Matt, if you like.
It's a wonderful venue.
Sounds good.
What's it like when you're receiving? Obviously being part of that first grade squad for 6 years, and then you get the. What's it like? I've always wondered getting the. You're not making first grade this week, and then you still sign the club, and then next week you're playing reserve grade, and then suddenly you're finding a bit more of that leadership role in reserve grade, and is that a noticeable thing as a a player reaching the end of his career? Is like, okay, well, I guess this is it now.
To me it is.
Yeah.
To a lot of people it probably isn't.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm more of a realist, and I realise that getting a bit slower, getting a bit weaker. So you may as well focus your energy into something that's beneficial for the other people, which is reserve grade. And I just felt like, I was, as much as I could play first grade, I probably wasn't up to it as what I used to be. So it was better off getting someone probably. I wasn't, too unhappy about getting dropped back to reserve grade, because I knew I could probably have more of an impact with the younger guys and have a chance at, winning a comp or doing something good there.
Bit more of that mentoring sort of role.
Yeah,
and it's,
it was good. It was a good couple of years we had there with the younger guys, and Clint Newton played a fair bit with us. And
actually, speaking to Clint, he speaks pretty fondly of his time. He did a similar thing towards the end of his career, finished in reserve grade, and he speaks really, really glowingly about it. He said it was a great way to finish the career because, like you said, you get to mentor a bit more, get to work, see the young guys coming up. I know people say a lot about what was happening with juniors and that when Wayne was around, but yeah, it must have been great to see the young blokes coming through and be able to have a hand in that and help them out.
Yeah, and just to go out and play footy, it takes a lot of. Play first grade is everyone's watching you, and in reserve grade, no one really gives a shit what you're doing. So you can go out and just have a bit of fun and play, and takes that pressure off, which makes you have a bit of fun. And it's something you don't sort of get in first grade, because everything's really scrutinised on what you're doing by coaches or fans. So in reserve grade, you stuff up, you have a bad loss or whatever, no one even knows about it really, except for the diehards. But yeah, so it was good. We had a good couple of years. We only lost a few games and made the grand final a few times. So
Well, that's why I always played second grade.
Yeah.
Purely by choice. I didn't want to play first grade because of the scrutiny.
That's it.
That's how I get to sleep at night. Just write myself that.
No, that's fantastic. Do you have a favourite Knights moment playing for the club? Anything that really strikes you?
That semi-final was good.
It's hard to beat.
Yeah, probably.
It was like the night. Obviously, it'd been so long since the Knights seen a lot of final success, and winning the second finals game. I remember just at the commie, everyone erupted. There was drinks, there was peanuts going everywhere.
Because I was still working. I was doing a bit of part-time work, plumbing with a company, just getting that road to when I retire, just trying to plant that seed with the company, doing a bit of work, finishing an apprenticeship actually, and then all them boys. I remember coming back to work the next week. Oh, I didn't go back to work, but I spoke to them because next week was pretty full on. But they were all so excited and like saying how much of a buzz everything was going on around town. It was good.
And the place went mental. It was brilliant. Did the club or the NRL help out at all with that transition? Or was it kind of you sort of had to do it all on your own? Like, is there much put in place to help players transitioning out of NRL careers?
Yeah, I think there is, They helped me a lot.
Okay.
Dean Noonan, which he still works at the club. He was really good. They sort of, with trades, they don't like to do casual sort of employment and apprenticeships. It's got to be full-time or nothing. And obviously being a full-time footballer, you can't commit to that. So they actually reworked it and got the all clear from TAFE New South Wales and let to do a casual sort of apprenticeship, which helped me a lot, which means when I finished playing I was pretty much done with my apprenticeship and then could just step into being a tradesman.
When it was all said and done and you hung up the boots, how was it watching that next year of footy? Watching the Knights run out and just knowing that you're not part of that squad, or when it was time for pre-season to kick off again and that's behind. Was it tough to give up?
No, not really, because it sort of, I was still playing park footy and that sort of gave me that little bit of competitiveness and everything like that. But I don't know, like the last few years probably were a bit of a battle. Not a battle, but I wasn't playing first grade and it was a bit of a hard slog. So I think I had enough, to tell you the truth. And so just letting them other guys run around was good. But I still went to the games and got excited when the teams run out and everything like that. You still think, oh, maybe you could play, but and then you think, nah. Have another sip of your beer and you go, nah.
That's it. Why would you rather be out there running around when you could be sitting sipping a few frothy?
Yeah, you done your time. That's it. Hang them up.
It was a brilliant career. 201 first grade games, 101 for the Knights. Again, we love a milestone, so it was nice rounded off time, but it was a real pleasure to watch. Hopefully, would you like to stick around? We'll talk some how the Knights are going at the moment.
Yep, no worries.
We'll have a halftime break and we'll be right back with Matt Hilder.
Too easy.
Beauty. All right, I didn't do my homework, so I'll write down the questions. She's just glorious.
You wonder why they're getting rid of him. We'll jump back in. Welcome back to the second half of the Joust. We're here with Matt Hilder, club legend of the Newcastle Knights, as well as Cronulla, as well as the Titans as well. All three. Bit of a journeyman of the NRL, getting around there. But settled in Newcastle, though. The rightful home. Now, Liam, the game against the Warriors,
yes.
We went down 4 points to 20 over there in the ditch.
We did. Not an ideal result, but could have been a lot worse. I think if you watch the game, the way the Warriors were playing, I think that result could have really blown out. And the Knights showed a bit of character to not get absolutely trounced.
I think it was a bit of it definitely felt like a closer game watching it. The end score, I think, flattered the Warriors a little bit. They just overpowered us. I think they felt like it was just too strong of a. Too big, too strong. They came out in the second half. They've done this to us again and again. Liam, are you okay?
They have,
like
I've just lost my my hats on and hats off page.
That's right. I'll kick off with the hats off for this week. For me, it goes to a player that I actually put my hats back on to last week, and that's Ken Seo.
Kenny Kickoffs.
Kenny Kickoffs
is back in the good books, and I've got some stats here, Nagy. I've found my hats off page. Kenny Kickoffs back in the good books. Of course, our stats brought to us by the
our resident
Josh Spiegelman, our resident stats man. Yep. Kenny Kickoffs had 147 metres, 47 post-contact metres, 5 tackle busts, a line break, and that try, which he had to work very hard for. So Kenny's been kind of a much maligned figure this year for the Knights, but I think he's really showing that he wants to play and he can do some wonderful things when he needs to, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right. No, it was my hats off this week was to Kenny. And Liam, your hats off for this week?
My hats off is got to go to Herman. Herman's been a great signing. Big Herman SASA. 159 metres, 62 post-contact, 6 tackle busts and 39 tackles. He's really kind of leading the team around. He's been that big, aggressive, front row bastard that you need. That must make a huge impact having, just a couple of rough nuts up front who can just go mental.
Definitely need one or two.
Yeah, we could do with a few more.
Dylan Napa the other night for the Roosters.
Oh, he was immense.
Yes.
He'd be good to get.
He's good and not good, I find. Yeah.
It's hard. He plays that good one week, then goes missing the next week. I don't know.
It's like he uses up all his
the
fuel.
red hair. Yeah, I think it's the kind of troubled nature of people with red hair. I can say that I've got a red beard.
That's it. Hats back on for you, Liam.
Hats back on. I couldn't pick one. Actually, I've got to be quite honest. Watching that game, I didn't want to give a hats back on because I thought everyone kind of put in. Jack Cogger got run over a few times, but he did a few good things around the field that sort of made up for it. I found it hard to give a hats back on because no one was particularly bad. It was just the Warriors' power game just steamrolled us, just absolutely ran over the top.
Yeah, it was tough. I think, Corey Dennis still learning out there in centre, and people say that we deserve a better centre without Tao Tao and without Ross, he's effectively our, third choice centre and played a lot of it in reserve grade. Only a young fella, but there was a few opportunities there that I think possibilities maybe if balls went to hand he could have got a few points, but he was playing that very aggressive Warriors side, and I think they managed to spin the momentum back a lot against us. When we pinned them down for a dropout, they managed to regather twice with the short kick-off, and that's just confident footy. It's hard to defend against that and apply pressure when they're willing to take those risks. Do you remember any teams, Matt, that was really hard to play against as far as every week they were just if they're a bit of a bogey side when you were playing, whether it be the Sharks or the Knights?
Not really, eh?
No, that's right.
No, I remember watching Ipswich Jets play.
Yeah.
Chris Walker, the Walker brothers coach him, and the way they used to do things a bit out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
It's something that appeals to me. If I was a coach, that's the way I'd do it, I think.
Just go nuts, have a bit of fun. Just tell the boys to play footy because it seemed to be working great for the Jets too. They just had a really good run.
Do the unexpected and put, gets them a bit off guard, and sometimes they can sort of work in your favour.
Well, it worked for the Warriors a couple of times.
Yeah, well, they sort of went for that sort of thing that they can't win without the ball in their hands. You can't win. I think that's the Walker brothers' mantra. I think they always want possession. I think so. They're always
fighting for possession.
Yeah.
Make everything a contest. Don't just kick them the ball.
Yeah.
Even if it gives up 30 metres or whatever.
Is it time for Nathan Brown to step in and tell Corey Dennis to shave his mustache?
Yeah, have you seen?
That thing's a nightmare.
Corey Dennis has got a terrible mustache. I'm not sure.
I've seen it.
Have you ever? Now, we all know about coaches being involved with every level of the team. Have you ever had a coach be involved with someone saying your haircut's shit, your mustache is terrible, shave it or you don't play? Has that ever happened?
It has, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they always come out and say, no, it never happens. It never happens. But
no, it has. I can't remember who it was, but I remember. Oh, where was it? Might have been Brian Smith, or maybe, I think.
Well, he was a school teacher at one stage, Brian Smith, so maybe that was bringing him back a bit to his school days. Spit that gum out and
trim those sideburns.
Trim those sideburns, and
might have been. Yeah,
there was
someone coming up with like a mad
mohawk or something.
What's that bloke who plays for the Tigers on the wing there?
Mahe Fanua?
Yeah, Fanua.
Where the shave
and the... It was a haircut like that. And they said, you're not playing with that.
Good. About time. Someone's got to step in. So Brownie listens to the show, obviously. So Brownie, mate, pick up the phone to Corey.
Might have been Junior Sal.
Oh. I played touch footy against Junior Sal once.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say a word to him about his hair because his legs would. He could stomp you.
Yeah. I remember hearing a story. Not sure if it was true, but Mark Riddell apparently used to have a chubba chop before every game, and then it was in the sheds. And then Nathan Brown came around and said, "What's that?" He's like, "Oh, it's a chubba chop. I have it before the game." He goes, "Got to cut that chubba chop out." And he went out and he had an absolute shocker that game. And then the next game he was sitting in the sheds and he brought him a chubba chop and he said, "There you go, suck on that." So
I reckon it would have been a cola chubba chubba. That's always my favourite.
I think it was I think they mentioned it was like those choc banana ones.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Piggy Riddell does seem like the kind of person who would eat a choc banana. Chubba chub. The worst flavour.
You don't see too many Piggy Riddells in the game anymore.
No.
It's a
You
bit of a
don't.
shame.
It is
No.
a shame.
Him and Georgie
You do-
Rose.
like-
George Rose, yeah.
What? Yeah, I don't like the demise of the fat bloke
Yeah.
in footy. I really don't like it.
Everyone looks like athletes now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What
Everyone.
about Vave from Parramatta? Is it?
Oh, that's a good point though. Yeah, he's a bit rotund.
He had a good
He's
game
got a
the other
few
night.
kegs on
He
it.
had a good game.
Was that the? Is that the? I can't think of who it is. Is that the redheaded bloke? No.
No.
He's an Islander.
Yeah.
He's
Just a bit.
front row.
Just a bigger boy.
He's
Big
enormous.
boy.
Well,
Big
actually,
boy.
watching Greg Eastwood run
He's
around
rare.
in reserve grade the other day, he's somehow managed to put on more kilos. And of course, this is all in the media this week with the NRL Footy Show getting in trouble for fat shaming Dave Taylor.
Yes,
I don't
that's
think
true.
it's shaming. It's just some guys are big, and we
He-
need them in the game.
And he's put on some weight. Let's
He
be
has
honest.
put on
He
some
couldn't say to himself, "Oh, like he must be weighing like 140 kg or something." now."
I already missed it. What was he doing?
Oh, he was playing up. I think he's playing for the Central Queensland Capras or
Oh,
something
is
up
he?
there.
Yeah,
And yeah, the Footy Show got hold of a picture of him out on the field, and they just slammed him. They went on for about, I don't watch the Footy Show, but they went on for about 15 minutes
saying
going
how
on about
fat he is.
how
Yeah.
enormous he's got. So
Yeah, but he has got fat. Though.
he has that. So.
Apparently, when he was at the Broncos, he used to when he could get weighed in. You get weighed in at times for performance managing and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Apparently, he used to just lean on his toes on the scales, and he said it used to take off about 3 kilos. so he'd come in one week, and then they'd be like, "You got to lose some weight," and the next week he would lean on his toes.
He's
So-
a clever boy. A clever boy. That's
The old Daryl Broman, apparently,
Yeah.
he said he's been doing it for years.
Does it really work?
Apparently, well, yeah, because you take it off the center of the scale, so
okay.
it's not. So yeah,
It's
yeah.
not accurate.
It's not accurate. Yeah, get weights and measures in there.
That's the Brisbane Broncos, who famously were known for having the McDonald's Gold Card for their players, up to $20 in free McDonald's every day.
That's why Jack Bird.
Yeah,
or-
hence we have that.
like
We've gone off track though.
We've got off track a little
But
bit.
we have the Warriors game.
Yes, well, it was interesting to see because also it was confusing as well because the Knights reserve grade side won that 20-4, and the first grade lost 20-4. So that was a bit of a yeah. But I couldn't really give a hats off. Yeah, mine's Corey Dennis. Yours, it was tough to pick.
I couldn't pick one. I don't know. It wasn't a great game from the Knights, but I don't think they were terrible. They were just monstered by the
bigger-
Warriors just rolling through, going mental.
Yeah. It's Green really tore us to pieces as well
Yeah.
through the middle.
Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, I was going to put him for hats off. He was immense. He ran for 338 metres, 11 tackle busts,
Yeah.
couple of offloads, a couple of line breaks. It's easy to forget that because he's over at the Warriors, they maybe don't get the coverage over here that a lot of other players do. It's easy to forget that on his day, he's arguably the best fullback in the world.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Well, 300 plus meters. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, the guy's a freak. So
I got to ask.
he gets my hats off as well.
We were talking last week about reading, growing up reading rugby league weeks, always in the stat sections, like and reading like the hit ups and the meters and the tackles. Does that go around the players at all? Do you ever check out how many tackles you made and be like, 42 this week, or anything like that, or is it just sort of like it was done's done?
I don't know whether they have conversations about it, but I'm sure they check it when they get home, straight online.
It's all online now. Is it?
We used to have little benchmarks we sort of had to meet and everything like that. So you always just check and see if you're up to scratch. I
Okay.
would anyway, because it's performance,
Yeah,
You
that's what you
want to
want.
be meeting your benchmarks and everything like that.
Because the one you hear about now is with Supercoach, and I remember hearing
It's
a
all
few players they
points,
go
yeah.
into the dressing shed before training or whatever, and they check their Supercoach price. See, I've gone up this week, you've gone down, blah blah. You got this many points on it, and then the coach will be like, no, can't do it. But let the boys have some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it's on that. Yeah. You talk about price then and
Yeah.
performance. Yeah, I
But
suppose
it's all
fine.
made
It's
up
all-
numbers, Nagy.
It's true. It's not real,
Yeah,
is it?
it's not real.
Yeah, well, it's real to some people, Liam. Now, we've lost 3 in a row. 3 in a row since
Yeah.
the Titans game, and now we are on a recount after we've celebrated not being able to get the spoon this year. We're in mathematical chance to get the spoon. We've been informed by a few keen jousters that we're, in fact, if the bottom 3 sides win 2 of the next 3, which is improbable but is still possible, and for and against will be at the bottom. Now, this is an interesting thing because we got the spoon in 2005. We got the spoon on 20 points with an extra bye. We won 8 games that year. 2015, 20 points, 8 games, still got the spoon. Now, this year we've won 8 games again, 18 points, only because there's one less bye. So
it's a bloody NRL.
well,
Cheers, guys.
but
They've
we-
really screwed us there.
we broke the record for the most points to get the spoon in 2005. We equaled it in 2015. 2016-17 is a different sort of kettle of fish, but but you know it could have happened to us again. I really hope 4 spoons isn't a possibility.
Yeah, I didn't want to have to discuss this because I really didn't want it to. But 4 spoons, that's just. Oh.
Have you ever played? Because I believe your tender there, you never got the spoon. Do you ever play for a side that got the spoon?
No, we only won 6 games one year in Cronulla,
Yeah.
and we didn't get the spoon.
Huh. Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I know.
It's so it's not always.
That's insane.
So it's really unfair, I suppose, to represent like a spoon's a spoon and the worst of the 16. But there's a huge variant.
I
there,
think
yeah.
Souths were pretty bad back then.
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah,
was
they
South
were.
in
So
the
they
early
only won,
2000s. though.
2 or 3 games a year.
That was a rough time for South. I remember. And it's weird to see South being successful now. I still have that. I still feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
Because I grew up when they were, that late 90s, early 2000s period. They were just terrible, and then they got kicked out.
Yeah.
They came back in, and they were still terrible.
Mad Dog was there.
Mad Dog was there for a
Yeah.
bit. Owen Craigie went there.
Walker's brothers.
Walkers were there, and it was like I always felt
Fletcher.
so sorry for them. So when they won the premiership in 2014, I remember them lifting the trophy, and I was like, "Oh, poor Souths. They have a tough time of it. I can't
Yeah.
do that anymore.
No,
No, because they were
poor,
terrible.
It's poor us. We gotta make sure we don't get a 4th.
Yeah.
And so 3 games. We've got Penrith this week. How do you think we're gonna go against Penrith, Liam? Ponga was talked about being rested, but not the case.
I believe Tony Ayoub has said that Ponga's looking like he will play. He's recovered really well, better than they'd expected from that ankle that was flaring up a bit. And Penrith, God knows, heaven only knows what the hell they're going to come out with on the next round, because what they showed against the Titans was that they were terrible, but they still won. When your coach has been sacked, they want to get behind the reserve grade. Oh, sorry, the assistant coach who's now come in, Cameron Serraldo. So
You would have played with Cameron when he's still in the Knights.
Good mates of Cam.
Oh,
Our
yeah.
families, yeah. So,
how's he doing down there? Because it sounded like under Hook he was kind of brushed aside a bit. And
Well, he was always a
Yeah,
player's favourite or something like
Yeah.
that.
He's a good fella, so he probably gets on with the players a lot better than what the head coach would. But he keeps everything close to his chest. He never really told me what the inside story was
Yeah.
down there. But no, he's done well. His record speaks for himself, I think. Even though the cattle he's had in his 20 sides and that, but he's done a great job with them. And hopefully he sort of hangs around there and gets a go at first grade in the next
'Cause
couple of years or whatever.
He's got a good rap on him. He's definitely getting a lot of exposure, and especially if they can finish the year well, he's put himself in a great position. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you take, mate, that Pens haven't been going real good for the last few weeks. So
yeah.
if he can turn it around for the back end of the year and they can perform well in the semis, and
And that's what worries me. Like, the players seem to quite like him. They've now got a coach who they want to play for. They could go absolutely mental and put 100 points on anyone, given the talent that they've got. And it just so happens that we're up next. And it was like going into the Warriors game. I really have no idea what this game is going to do. It could go anywhere.
Yeah, but it's now I think James Maloney might be out with a knee injury, so
Oh.
a bit interesting there.
Yeah,
but,
that won't help them at all. But yeah, I don't know. The Panthers are just in such a weird place at the moment that it's hard to get them.
time for the news, Liam.
Time for the news. Penrith.
Yeah,
We got to talk news. So the bloody coaching cycle is still ticking along, and as we spoke about with you earlier, it can't be easy for a club going through that. So Penrith have obviously let Hook go. Cameron Serraldo's come in, and now in a further step for the coaching merry-go-round, Trent Barret has announced that he will quit Manly if they don't give him money, because it sounds like they're just hemorrhaging and going to hell.
It was interesting because we all think, Liam and I have been thinking that Manly is a really shit club for years now.
Basically, since the day we were born,
And
we
now-
were born to hate Manly.
And now even their head coach agrees that Manly's a shit club, apparently, to be a part of, and is said that he wants out. Do you think?
Has he said that really?
Well, he's asked. I think he's threatened court, and he's said a few different things that is a bit disparaging about the clubs.
Well, here's a conspiracy theory.
Hit us with it. We love it.
We love him. We love him. Good.
I know Cameron and Trent are good mates.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
there you
And
go.
How does Trent get on with Gus?
well, that's
That's the one where it remains to be seen. And then I think Johnny Cartwright, he had his time at Penrith as well, so I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
they're a package deal. And
who
If
knows?
they're
Because
mates.
he's at the Manly too, isn't he?
Yeah.
and I think they've said that like Barrett and Cartwright, they're together. They go together. So if they're mates with
Hey, there it is.
The big CC.
There it is.
There it is.
You've heard it here first
Oh.
in the Joust,
Gus,
guys.
Gus loves Cartwright's a local junior at Penrith.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
he?
yeah. Yeah, he
Yeah,
won the
he is
premiership
too.
in 91, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
as well.
And the other thing that makes me think that's true is that Gus came out in the media a few weeks ago and said that Trent Barret will not be coaching at Manly next year. And he's lied about everything else. So that one's got to be true. Absolutely. So that you heard it here first, Jousters.
Yeah, Barrett.
I think Trent Barrett would be a really good coach at Penrith.
Yeah.
He'll
Cartwright,
have money. He'll
Yeah.
have a
Assist-
squad.
dual coaches, Barrett and
Yeah.
Cartwright.
Yeah.
He won't have to coach out of the demountables behind the toilet at Brookvale. I think that could be a good one. But further coaching news, Wayne Bennett won't be offered a new contract
Well, there you go.
at the Broncos, which is the weirdest thing. I never thought the Broncos would say to Wayne, we're not renewing you. I thought they'd be like, well, you're just kind of here till you die. Obviously, when he left, he
That
kind
could be
of
any
left on
day
his
now,
terms.
mind you.
Yeah, but like you would have
You
played under Wayne and learned about what do you think Wayne's going to do? Does he love Brisbane? Does he say, well, I'm hanging up the boots? Well, not the boots, the clipboard.
The clipboard, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, when you put down the whistle. No, that's more
That's
of a
referee.
refereeing. Yeah.
He's done it for so long, and it's going to be hard for him to sort of give it up, I suppose. But if he's given no choice,
Yeah.
I don't know. Results sort of speak for themselves. No one's sort of invincible. Everyone's got to pay the price if you're not performing. So does Wayne pay the price, or does he just get to stay because he's won 6 premiership for him?
Because it's funny, because what I remember hearing about when they started the club, and Wayne Bennett never signed a contract. The first stint at the Broncos, which was that hugely successful time, he never actually signed a contract. It was always just handshake deals. So to hear that they're not offering him one is a bit strange, and I don't know.
It's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. I'm sure he'll keep coaching. Liam, we've got a couple of changes to the Knights coaching side, coaching squad as well.
Yeah, now Mick Potter and Tony Ayoub have been announced by Barry Toohey, good friend of the show today, that they'll be leaving at the end of the year. Both because Phil Gardner says that coaching staff need to be located in Newcastle. You need to come up, which I think is important.
They both had family in Sydney, I think. Yeah,
Family in Sydney. So I think it's important if you're building up a coaching staff, you want them based in Newcastle so they can dedicate themselves to the team. And the word is that Christian Wolf from the Townsville Blackhawks and the Tongan national side, it will be coming in as an assistant coach, which is great because he's shown that he's a hell of a coach. What he's done with the Tongan side is just unbelievable.
It's going to be. Have you familiar with all those?
No.
No, it's. I wasn't even sure of the team that you mentioned that he'd coached previously.
Yeah, Townsville Black. He's coaching them currently in the
currently.
Queensland Cup.
Ah,
But yeah,
okay.
what he's done with Tonga has just been ridiculous. He's got them on the verge of being a tier 1 nation, and
Yeah.
they were kind of, those island teams had previously been, well, if you don't get picked for Australia and New Zealand,
And then he was
I've got
the
a
one.
grandfather from there, and he
Yeah.
kind of came into the Tongan setup and said, well, no,
You either play for us. or
you're a
you play
proud
for them.
Tongan. You want
Yeah.
to choose that. And seems like he's really got the players on side and just made a hell of a culture there. So I think Christian Wolf, if we get him as assistant coach, could be one of the signings of the year.
Could be really positive. We're trying to open your sack, Liam. It's big sack. It's big zipper.
It's a large sack, yeah. It's medically unfit. Now, I will say, Daniel Turner, your questions were excellent, but couldn't fit them into the show because that would be a 3-hour show. So
Yeah.
I'm going to take to the internet and answer them in essay form for you, Daniel. So keep an eye out. I'm going to have a few beers and get the pen out and see what happens.
I think we've got time for 2 questions, Liam.
We got time for 2 questions. First one from Joel Southgate. Thoughts on Corey Dennis rejecting an extension from the Knights to look elsewhere?
That's brave for him, I think.
That's a brave
I
one,
think, look what happened to Brock Lamb. If you're not sure if you kept up with Brock Lamb, recently rejected at the start of the season, reportedly $250,000 contract. And then recently an Eels contract for $105,000. Supposedly, this is all money that was just mentioned on paper, was taken off the table. So he's found himself in a bit of limbo as far as where to go. And playing in reserve grade, obviously, it's hard to improve your net worth.
Yeah, I think Dennis might be in a bit of the same situation. It's a weird time to reject an extension to look for other clubs when he's probably not in great form. He's kind of been thrown in a bit to do what he can, and I don't know, it's a tough one. He doesn't seem to have much bargaining power in it all.
No, I don't know if is it true?
Apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
It's Barry
That's-
Toohey?
Maybe. Yes,
Yeah,
it was
it
Barry Toohey, I think.
Toohey, yeah.
It was like we said earlier, as long as you got that mustache, no one's signing.
No.
That's-
Well, even as a player, if you're down the bottom of the table, you really haven't got much to stand on, do you?
Yeah.
And
It's
you're not setting the world alight.
It's a strange one.
yeah.
I'm not sure I understand, Corey, but yeah, it's like the Lamb situation again, He offered an extension, says, nah, I'm going elsewhere. Could be because, these players have been thrown in young. They think they're NRL standard maybe. but then the harsh realities of professional sports might smash him to
Do you think that might be
pieces.
the case, Matt? Do you think you think he's on like a bit of energy, getting a bit running first grade for the first time, thinking I could do this here, I could do this anywhere, sort of a feel?
Yeah, maybe, but it comes down to they've got no one else to put in there, so they've put him in there. I'm not saying he's no good.
He's only a young fella.
I think with work he could be
it's-
very good.
With Jesse Raymond and Edric Lee in fighting position against still existing players like Skidsy and Ross, maybe
And
he's
then
just
Talmoga to
and
come back as
Talmoga,
well.
There's probably just no room for him, so maybe he's just thinking I can't sign here because I won't get any more first grade run. Maybe.
Yeah, there is a lot of things that
Lot of
we don't
moving
know.
parts.
So
Yeah.
Which I think the fans, as fans, we forget that all the time. I forget that all the time. It's like, why don't they do this? Well, because they're doing 25 other things
Yeah.
to make up for that.
He might be looking at elsewhere because he wants opportunity elsewhere. Maybe
It's going to be interesting.
That'll be an interesting one for
Final
Corey
question
Dennis.
for the night, Liam.
Now, Dave Blanderson, this is something we've discussed earlier in the year, but was kind of ruled out because Bennett was looking to stay at the Broncos. But with Wayne Bennett potentially moving, Tavita Pangai Jr. is unsigned for next year and has made it clear that he's staying at Brisbane because Wayne's there. If Wayne leaves, TPJ's off contract, do we open this war chest that we've got and bring the kid home? I say yes. I say give him the keys to the city, give him the mayor's office, I don't care, a penthouse on Honeysuckle, give him everything. He would be
bring him here.
an insanely good signing, TPJ.
It's going to be good, hopefully good to see him. Do you think, is there any player you see out playing for another club you're like, gee, the Knights could use him?
Seguiaro.
He'd be a good bench hooker.
I think we just lack that impact off the bench in the dummy half role.
Spark.
Yeah, he'd be great. He was really good on the weekend against Melbourne.
I think he's not used enough in Cronulla.
Yeah, he only comes on sometimes the back end of the games.
I love Segi.
Yeah.
He's a massively underutilized. I guess because trying to get Brayley into an 80-minute hooker, and then it's like, well, why do you need a bench utility? So just throw him on for a few minutes. Yeah, he's being underused over there, I think.
Yeah,
but then it's like, well, where do you fit him in with Slade Griffin and
move Slade to the back row and
Slade to the back row?
Yeah,
but then you've got Levi and Jamie Burer. Where do you put Jamie Burer?
Too many hookers.
Yeah.
But you've heard it here first. Bring Segi back to the club.
Yeah, I like
for the first time.
I like it. Plus, Newcastle nightlife, he would shine.
Yeah,
I think he would be. He'd make the exchange.
That could be the carrot. Just
exactly.
Up to F3. Just
saying, have you been to Fanny's before? Argyle, whatever it's called.
Sorry.
Now,
the commie.
The
no,
commie
we prefer
hotel.
to go to the commie.
We always
than
prefer
Argyle.
we always prefer the commie. Thanks very much for joining us, Matt Hilder. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you always, Liam. If you like our stuff, please watch us on Facebook, YouTube. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, all the pipes. And we'll be back next week, hopefully celebrating a win against Penrith. Thanks again, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Beauty. Yep. Hey, that was awesome, man.
Sorry, Sonny. I know you're...
Thank you, Sonny, for hanging around.
Patience.
What did you think? Your dad did good, eh?